Hi, this is Chiro. Warrant Arbitrage is the second video in my investing story series where I discuss a personal investment of mine and what I learned along the way. I'll mention here that while I had and may continue to have investments in Nikola or Hyliion in the future, I am not sponsored or otherwise affiliated with these companies. I'm going to set the stage here a bit. The investments I talk about today were done with Nikola Corporation shares prior to their warrants becoming exercisable. This story or strategy no longer works with Nikola, but could technically be done with Hyliion shares and warrants between now and the warrants becoming exercisable, likely around the end of October 2020, so I'll be using Hyliion to demonstrate in this video. Having said that, I discussed the risks of attempting this strategy more in a video called Hyliion Warrant Arbitrage, and want to stress that this video describes my strategy for entertainment purposes, should not be taken as investment advice, and the strategy should not be attempted without doing your own research. But enough of that, we're here to learn about free money. Consider tapping the like button for my low budget non-copyright infringing Mr. Krabs. I didn't think too much of Nikola when I first heard about it, but was definitely intrigued. At one point Nikola had a valuation exceeding that of Ford when it momentarily peaked above $90 per share. I didn't want to put money into something I knew nothing about, but I took a look at the options and they seemed odd. Nerd stuff alert. Compressing hours of me struggling to understand what I had discovered, it's basically a box spread of Irony Man fame on Reddit, and it's definitely not risk-free due to the risk of early exercise on your options. I also later realized that for Nikola and Hyliion, and perhaps any company with warrants that can't be exercised yet, selling deep in the money puts has a similar payoff to buying warrants. So, long story short, I found the simplest, most reasonably safe way to execute this strategy is as follows, and I'll be using values as of the time of recording from Hyliion, ticker SHLL or HYLN in the future, to demonstrate. Firstly, buy a warrant which costs about $20 and will require a further $11.50 to exercise in the future. This is like buying Hyliion shares for what I'm going to call $30. Secondly, short shares of Hyliion or sell a deep in the money call for Hyliion, which will get exercised pretty much immediately. Both of these choices achieve the same thing, which is selling shares of Hyliion at its current price of $50, or a few dollars lower if you're selling a deep in the money call. Either way, you now owe someone a share of Hyliion and have $50 in your pocket. Lastly, buy a call that expires after the warrants can be exercised. The idea with this call is that it provides some protection for the share price spiking and being bought back before your warrants become exercisable. This step isn't necessary per se, but it helps me sleep better at night, kind of like when you hit the like and subscribe button. So anyways, let's say you bought a call at a strike price of $60 for $10. Once the warrants are exercisable, it will cancel out the share you already sold, so you'll have earned $10 per share regardless of whether Hyliion goes bankrupt or if it skyrockets. We'll ignore the possibility of it going above your protective call strike price, although obviously that would be a bonus. The idea of the call is that prior to your warrant being exercisable, if the shares go down and your shares get bought back, you probably wouldn't mind and may choose to close out your position or enter your short position again. But if the shares skyrocket and get bought back at say $100, you're now on the hook for that amount. Assuming the shares don't immediately crash in price after the buyback, which I believe is the absolute worst case scenario, you at least have your $60 call to limit your loss. So while in theory you're able to make decent money no matter what price the shares end up being, I hope it's clear that this strategy is not without risk. Quick nerd alert intermission though. It was possible to scalp a little extra profit off massive price swings on Nikola by bumping up my strike price when the share price rose above my strike price, and pay a smaller amount to lower my strike if the share price sunk below my strike price. Having said that, Hyliion doesn't seem as contentious as Nikola was, so there probably won't be a lot of opportunities to do this. So what did I learn? As my first foray into messing with options, it was a unique feeling of dread knowing that my short sale shares could have been bought back overnight or randomly during the day, or that I'd be charged some extraordinary fee that I wasn't expecting. I talked to my broker multiple times to confirm, but it never shakes the feeling that I could have missed something. In the end, thinking through the worst case scenarios gave me enough confidence that I knew what to watch out for. I kept cash on hand to cover share buybacks, I had a plan to exit the strategy if I incurred more losses than expected, and in the end I was fortunate enough to realize the expected arbitrage. As mentioned, this can currently be done with Hyliion until the warrants become exercisable. At the time of recording, I haven't attempted it yet, and I don't really want to short shares for over a month. As discussed in my first video on Hyliion, I believe this company will do well in the long term, so my investment strategy at the time of recording has been to buy warrants and sell puts. Given the risks of this arbitrage strategy, a $10 payoff per share isn't a lot, but if Hyliion undergoes a sudden spike in price, or if the price difference between the warrants and shares become even larger, I may reconsider. In the end, remember that I'm not an investment advisor, and messing around with options this way is definitely not for the faint of heart. And that's that. If you enjoyed this story or learned something useful, consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell. I'd also love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. With that, thanks for watching and have a great day.